I strongly believe in a secular society, meaning no persecution and no special privileges based on religious belief. When someone's arrested for breaking the law, they're not taken to a Catholic court or Evangelical court or Baptist or Mormon or Hindu or Buddhist or Islamic or State Atheist court. They're taken to a civil court, and civil law is the law of the land, and civil law is above religious law. So this is the vision for the United States that I have. This is the vision that most people have, and this was the vision that President John F. Kennedy had.
I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no Catholic prelate would tell the president, should he be Catholic, how to act, and no Protestant minister would tell his parishioners for whom to vote, where no church or church school is granted any public funds or political preference, and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source.
Despite the fact that most people believe in a secular foundation in the United States of America, and most of those people are Christian, and it was men who called themselves Christian that established this secular foundation. Despite this fact, secularism is constantly under attack, and not just by conservatives, not just by the Republicans, but most recently by Donald Trump and his attacks on the Johnson Amendment and his promotion of a faith-based initiative in government. This is what he had to say during a speech on the National Day of Prayer.
From across the country, including my good friend Paula White, who's done such an incredible job. Paula, stand, Paula. Thank you, Paula. And the president of the National Day of Prayer, Dr. Ronnie Floyd. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Thanks, Ronnie.
And let's also recognize the president of the National Day of Fortune Cookies. Thanks for all the hard work.
Faith has shaped our families, and it's shaped our communities. It's inspired our commitment to charity and our defense of liberty. And faith has forged the identity and the destiny of this great nation that we all love. Americans of faith have built the hospitals that care for our sick, the homes that tend to our elderly.
So a few things here. To say that our country was built on faith is a meaningless statement, which is perfect for politicians. It makes people feel good, and yet they're not really saying anything. You can say our country was built on hammers. Our country would not be what it is today. In fact, we wouldn't have a country if it weren't for hammers, which is a true statement, but it's a meaningless statement. Also, faith is not a virtue. It depends on what you have faith in. The terrorists on 9/11 had faith. Trump paying $130,000 to silence a hooker had faith that that would be enough money. So faith in itself, once again, is not a virtue. It depends on what you have faith in. Also, the people that built the hospitals are the people who didn't have faith. They said hope and prayers and faith isn't going to help these sick people. Hate to say it, but we're going to have to get off our ass, and we're going to have to build a hospital.
We are proud of our religious heritage, and as president, I will always protect religious liberty. We've been doing it. Last year on this day, I took executive action to prevent the Johnson Amendment, a disaster, from interfering with our First Amendment rights. I was so proud of that. I've been saying from the beginning, you know that.
Religious liberty is protected by the First Amendment. Donald Trump is not talking about religious liberty. What he's talking about is religious privilege, a religious handout, and not just for any religion, but specifically this lunatic fringe, this group of evangelicals that he's in bed with. That's what he's talking about, doing them political favors, giving them more political power. And why does he attack the Johnson Amendment? The Johnson Amendment says that if you're receiving tax-free income, you are being subsidized by the taxpayer. You're being subsidized by we the people, which is all the taxpayers, Democrats, Republicans, religious, non-religious. We the people are subsidizing your income, and that you are tax-free. You are not paying taxes. And so you are not in the business of endorsing political candidates. If you do that, then you do not deserve your tax-free status. This is how the law should be. This is anti-corruption. And most Christians want the Johnson Amendment. Most religious leaders do not want politicians knocking on their door. They don't want to be in the business of promoting politicians. They want to stick with the business of promoting God. So what Donald Trump is seeking, he doesn't speak for the majority of the people. This is his own agenda of corruption and good old boys politics.
Across the government, we have taken action to defend the religious conscience of doctors, nurses, teachers, students, and groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor. In January of this year, I was proud to be the first president to stand here in the Rose Garden to address the March for Life. A very special day.
So what Donald Trump is referring to is Obamacare, where there was a mandate that you had to cover contraception as part of that mandate, and Catholic organizations suing and winning that lawsuit, winning that case, that they wouldn't be forced to fund contraception. And this is where Hobby Lobby, it was decided that a corporation can be religious, and that through that a religious affiliation can have special privileges that other corporations don't have, that can get out of a policy, that can get out of a healthcare policy provision by endorsing itself with a religion. Now, obviously, this is not secular, and that decision was a complete, utter disaster. And this is what he's talking about. But all that happened without Donald Trump. He wasn't involved with that. I guess now he's trying to take credit for that. But that's a court case that shouldn't have happened. And in fact, there's a lot of things in Obamacare that couldn't have happened. There shouldn't have been a religious exception for Obamacare. How is that fair to people who didn't want to pay their premiums that weren't religious? How were they supposed to make a deeply held religious belief excuse not to pay their premiums? So what happened is a lot of them lied. So not a lot of non-religious people found Jesus so they can get out of paying Obamacare. And once again, the attacks on secularism don't just come from the right. They come from the left as well. And that was a serious, horrible case, saying that a corporation can associate itself with a religion, and then through that religious association gets special privileges. So everyone's equal under the law, but some people are just a little more equal than others.
And my administration has spoken out against religious persecution around the world, including the persecution of many, many Christians. What's going on is horrible. And we're taking action. We are taking action.
The persecution against Christians is horrible. The persecution against atheists is also horrible. My people are getting butchered in Bangladesh and arrested in Egypt. So the problem is these Islamic theocracies, which put their religious laws above individual rights and liberties. So yeah, let's definitely fight that battle. Let's fight that battle for equality. Let's fight that battle for secularism.
We condemn all crimes against people of faith, and today we are launching another historic action to promote religious freedom.
We already have religious freedom. What he's talking about is selective religious privilege.
I will soon be signing an executive order to create a faith initiative at the White House. Thank you very much. The Faith Initiative will help design new policies that recognize the vital role of faith in our families, our communities, and our great country. This office will also help ensure that faith-based organizations have equal access to government funding.
So it's not enough that they're not paying taxes. We need a branch of government to make sure that specific religious organizations, and let's get rid of the Johnson Amendment, just call it specific religious organizations that endorse Donald Trump, get access to public funding so we, the taxpayer, can continuously promote this corruption in Washington.
And the equal right to exercise their deeply held beliefs.
Well, we wouldn't want to get in the way of somebody exercising their deeply held beliefs, would we? So that means if a 54-year-old man has deeply religious beliefs that he should be able to marry a 9-year-old girl, well, we shouldn't get in the way of that, should we? And then somebody who starts walking towards Donald Trump with a bunch of stones because it's his deeply held religious belief that adulterers be stoned to death. Well, don't get in his way and stop him. We wouldn't want to interfere with his deeply held religious beliefs now, would we? Deeply held religious beliefs don't matter. What matters is the law. That's what matters. If you break the law, you do the time. And it doesn't matter what your deeply held religious beliefs are.
We take this step because we know that in solving the many, many problems and our great challenges, faith is more powerful than government, and nothing is more powerful than God.
And nothing is more arrogant than some self-righteous prick claiming to speak for God.
John grew up without his father. John was in and out of jail for years until at age 38, he was arrested for bank robbery. John soon ended up in federal prison, relegated to solitary confinement. That's where God found him. John began to read the Bible and listen to Christian radio, right? So incredible. Jesus wants to be Lord of your life. That night, John dedicated his life to Christ. He spent the rest of his time in prison praying, studying the Bible, and bringing the Lord to his fellow inmates. John runs a ministry that has helped more than 2,000 former inmates rejoin society, and he's the talk of the country. The job John does is incredible. John and Richard, you are a living testament to the power of prayer. Your story reminds us that prayer changes hearts and transforms lives. It uplifts the soul, inspires action, and unites us all as one nation under God. So important. And we say it here, you know? A lot of people, they don't say it. But you know what? They're starting to say it more, just like we're starting to say Merry Christmas when that day comes around. You notice the big difference between now and 2 or 3 years ago? It was, Paula, it was going in the other direction rapidly, right? Now it's straight up.
Nothing says religious liberty like forcing Jews to say Merry Christmas. But back to John. It's great that he helped out people. That's wonderful. But why is Trump even bringing this up? And a lot of times politicians will do this. They'll bring up some positive story that has nothing to do with the snake oil that they're promoting. So basically, it seems like he's positioning this for government funding for prisons to endorse religions. Let's have the taxpayers pay money for prisons to get into the religious indoctrination business. And once again, not just any religion. He didn't tell the story about somebody who found Allah and through the Quran changed his life around. So obviously this is just going to be a very specific segment that we're talking about. But come to think of it, the percentage of people in prison that are atheists is real tiny. So perhaps that's what we should be promoting in prison. More atheists, since the percentage is so low. Perhaps that's the way to go, do an atheist in indoctrination. But really, it's great that he helps people. But once again, this has absolutely nothing to do with this religious faith initiative. I mean, Jesus finding people in prison has been going on for decades. This is nothing that magically happened with Donald Trump, and this is not anything that desperately needs any kind of government involvement, any kind of faith-based initiative. And come to think of it, aren't Republicans for smaller government? Isn't that what their big mantra is? So why is Donald Trump trying to expand the size of government? We need more people to make sure that faith-based institutions are getting equal access to government funding.
Our country was founded on prayer. Our communities are sustained by prayer. And our nation will be renewed by hard work, a lot of intelligence, and prayer.
You just got the old bait and switch. Notice how he snuck in hard work and intelligence in there. This whole video was just prayer, faith, faith, prayer, 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 faith, faith, prayer. And then right at the end, oh yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to have some hard work and intelligence there as well. Perhaps that's the initiative that we should be working on in Washington. The hard work and intelligence initiative. Now there's an initiative that would actually be beneficial. But anyway, the Johnson Amendment is a good thing. This faith initiative by Trump is nothing new. Politicians have brought this stuff up before. Not much has come about from it. Hopefully the same thing will happen again. I know there's people worried about the LGBT community and being discriminated against. And a lot of times this is what this religious liberty comes down to. It means the freedom to discriminate. But then again, a private business is different than a organization that's being funded by taxpayers. And so the rules are different. And where a private business has more leeway, a private business can endorse whatever candidate they want. When an organization is being funded by we the people, the rules are a little bit different, and they should be. It's a good thing. This is Jim Wall. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Cisco, do we have to leave all our good friends now? Only until next time, Pancho. Adios, amigos.